All right, folks, now joining us on the 182 News podcast, very special guest here. I am joined by the artist simply known as Thumbs. Thumbs, how's it going?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here, man.
No problem. Stoked to have you on. So Thumbs made an incredibly rad bass for Mark Hoppus, and we saw it during the last tour last summer. I think it joined the tour about midway through. We'll get to the bass, but before we get there, I want to get a better understanding of really how you became an artist in general. Is this something that started at an early age? Is it something that you were always doodling on your notepads or sketching on your desk? Like, how did it work out for you to go down this career path?
I mean, for me, yeah, I was always drawing. I've got real, like clear sort of memories of, having like a little sketch pad at school, always drawing, always copying Garfield comics as well. I was always like a massive Garfield fan, drawing him from like a young age, huge sort of like Simpsons and cartoon fan, and always just kind of trying to replicate those sort of cartoons. That was always from a young age though, man. And then I kind of didn't really have any kind of like artistic direction. Like I started skating, in my sort of like early teens. Didn't really see like art as like a career path. I didn't think it was something I could like make money from. Or for me, that was kind of like something that was totally, not even on my radar. It was something that was more for like Hollywood. That was like what Disney studios are doing and stuff like that. Nothing for like some little skate rat in London. Nothing that I could make money from. And I kind of just like, it was always sort of drawing or, trying to, do a bit of graffiti here and there, but never really any good at it. And then I kind of started working in a skate shop and being surrounded by like all the awesome graphics from like, Todd Francis, Jim Phillips stuff, on like Santa Cruz boards, and like all this stuff was so inspiring and so, just gave me so much kind of like influence as well in terms of my style. That kind of pushed me back into drawing, and that's kind of where my sort of new love for it sort of spawned from. Definitely out of the skate scene, listening to music as well, like rad album covers. Remember like the Offspring logo, how kind of like vibrant that was. Especially like the Blink-182 album covers as well. Mark, Tom and Travis show, that was just like a feast for the eyes, That's kind of where it spawned from, listening to music in my early teens, skating. That was kind of the drive and the push that kind of got me back into sort of maybe thinking, oh yeah, I could maybe do something as a professional career. But yeah, that's heavily influenced by that kind of thing.
Was it always just you and your sketch pad, or did you have any formal training or go to any art classes, or was it purely your imagination?
Oh God, no! I was never good enough for for art school. Yeah, definitely not, man. More of a just kind of self-taught. I mean, I was always pretty good at drawing. Like I wouldn't say I had a specific style. It always lended itself to kind of animation or doing sort of cartoons and stuff. I had kind of that sort of 90s kind of vibrant styles, always like lured towards those sort of colors and stuff. I did go back to college in my sort of late 20s because I kind of thought, oh, maybe like graphic design was the more mature approach to monetizing on art, but I never really stuck with it. It was a bit too kind of not corporate, but with graphic design, you kind of have to work with like a lot of brands and stuff, where with art, I always sort of felt that was more freedom, So yeah, I always had like a sketch pad with me. Now it's all sort of a lot of my art's digital, working on the iPad and stuff. I still do a lot of painting and stuff like that, but it's definitely come in terms of like a big curve in terms of like the digital aspect of it, which is great because, you can take it on the fly. You could take your iPad on the airplane and bust out a piece, and by the time you land it, it's completed, and you can stick that off onto the internet. So that's it's always been kind of just a fun hobby that turned into something that people kind of enjoyed looking at.
Yeah, what was that thing that made you realize that, hey, you might be able to either make a living or make a little money? Like, what was that moment? Was it a band reaching out to you? Was it a print you had made? Like, what was it that clicked in your head where it was like, I might be able to do this?
The band didn't. No bands reached out straight away. Put it that way. Just honestly, it was working in that skate shop. Like we had like I remember having just like this big sticker sort of wall. So we just always had stickers on it. Kids would come in, people would come in. Oh yeah, buy a sticker. You know, a few bucks here and there. And when I started drawing, this was like in the days when Instagram had kind of just launched. I remember like literally the week it became kind of popular. It was that original logo as well, that brown one. That's how much it dates back to. And putting up my art on Instagram at the time, that you started to get quite a few views, quite a few eyeballs on my art and stuff. Not like now where you post something you get like 100 likes even though you've got like thousands of followers. It's busted. Right. In those days it actually worked and stuff. So like creating that art, putting it on Instagram, people actually seeing it and going, oh man, I'd love this as a sticker, or I'd love it as a pin or a t-shirt. I remember like actually getting them printed as stickers and having them as like tangible products that I could actually stick in the skate shop, and people started like throwing a few pounds at me just to buy the stickers and stuff, and that kind of gave me the push to go, oh, maybe I could take this a little bit further. I had to have a little bit of self-belief that maybe this could be something. I remember like printing my own t-shirts. We had like this sorry if I'm like diverting too much out of the question.
No, love it.
Something to shut up or whatever, but back then like we had this old t-shirt press in the bottom of the skate shop, and it weighed like, man, like the weight of a small car. It took 5 people just to fucking lift it. It was so heavy. But I'd be like, selling my t-shirts on Instagram, and I'd accumulate orders over a week, and then I'd be like spending all my nights till like 3 a.m. just like cutting out the stencils, heat pressing them onto t-shirts. I thought I was like this big operation. I had like a bag of blanks, like these old Gildan shirts. I was like folding them, putting them into little things, shipping them off all around the world and stuff. Thought I was like, gonna be the next Amazon or something, but it kind of organically grew. And like I said, as I put more and more art on there, and I was sort of experimenting with different products, it did kind of get busy, did kind of like spiral quite significantly, and I had to then kind of take my art to another level and be like, well, maybe I need to start looking at professional screen printers, or better sticker companies, or and maybe I need to invest in actual packaging supplies, things like that people don't really think about, that side of business. Like you always think, oh yeah, I'll make a design, I'll send it somewhere. You have to go and buy envelopes, man. Like
and there's cost behind that.
Yeah, with the business side of things, it was a whole different world to me. Like obviously I worked in the skate shop, and we had like a small online business, but this doing it yourself and relying only on yourself was very difficult. That's why I had to like wrangle in like family members. Like my kid was like packaging orders, my wife was sort of handling emails and things like that. So like selling my stuff small bit by small bit, and letting it kind of grow organically. I definitely saw the increase in people noticing my artwork, and that's when I was kind of thinking, when people were actually asking for product, that's when I was like, yeah, this could actually maybe work, and then it kind of just, step by step, leap by leap, went on for there. I mean, I went from like a little shoebox of stickers to then like a whole like studio, and it's been a few years in the making, but it's it pays the bills now, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear that. I mean, you grew it organically. It's DIY. I forgot about the early Instagram with that brown logo. And what's fascinating to me when I think about it, the early days of Instagram was basically just everybody posting their fucking cheeseburgers and dinner. So your art probably did stick out instantly. I mean, back then, I don't recall discovering a ton of artists in the early days of Instagram. Now, obviously, it's amazing, but that's interesting to me.
Well, yeah, you never had the explore page or anything, or there was no, I mean, there probably was, but there was no sort of big algorithm like there is now, where, I click on your profile and then I'll get a bunch of people that you follow sort of on my explore page. It was literally like, oh, I follow my friend, and then I'll click onto his profile and see who he follows and stuff like that. It was very like, you really had to work your way into it to actually follow people and stuff. And now it's like anything will just pop up on your feed. Like, back then, if you posted something in the morning, and then I posted something, you would see it in order, and it was so good because people,
Yeah.
you could actually scroll down to the bottom, and I remember you get a little notification saying you're done, like you've gone to the bottom of your feeds. That's cool. Now I can go back to the top.
Yeah.
And there'd be like a fresh post and stuff. Where now it's like it's never ending. It's just that doom scrolling. But that's that's for another talk on that.
Yeah, totally. The influences. So when I kind of look through your pages and look at your stuff, man, to me it just screams like 90s nostalgia. It's so much stuff I love. I mean, it's Mario, Pokemon, Star Wars, it's all of that stuff. I mean, did you just kind of start doodling with your favorite things as a kid or growing up and just develop your own unique style? Because you blend these in a way that I've never seen done before. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's yeah, when I first started doing it, it was more to kind of get back into drawing. And my eldest daughter at the time was maybe like 4 years old, and she was just getting into certain cartoons. I think she was just starting to find The Simpsons as well, things like that, And I was watching a lot of cartoons with her, a lot of movies and stuff. And as kids do, oh, can you draw this for me? And like sketching it out, and she'd be coloring it in and making an absolute mess of this amazing, masterpiece I just spent half an hour drawing. And then, yeah, I just kind of got back into, my sort of like loving those sort of nostalgic cartoons and stuff that I grew up on. She was now kind of growing up on, and I was like, this is so awesome because they really are timeless, like watching those old cartoons and stuff, like stuff that I watched when I was maybe 5 or 6, or those Saturday morning cartoons. They still hold hold up to these days standards for sure. So it kind of that gave me a love for going back into the old cartoons that I had watched and loved as a kid, going onto YouTube, find those montages like 90s opening theme tunes and stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like a 10-minute montage of like your favorite cartoons and stuff. And I just remember like making notes, like, oh, I remember that, remember that, and then going back onto Google and like looking at all like the cover art for videos that come out and stuff like that. And then things were just kind of sparking off into my head. And I don't know how it happened, but I was kind of like watching The Simpsons. I was like, Simpsons, and I think it was like Ninja Turtles. It was like my first, like, I guess we call it a mashup. I was like, why has that not happened yet? And I remember like Googling it and going through pages and pages, like, why has no one drawn this yet? And kind of just drew it. It took me ages, and then I put it on Instagram, and the amount of comments I got was insane, man. Like I remember Sticker Wrap. They're a sticker company in Sweden. Shout out to those guys. They still make my stickers to this day, 10 years deep. And they were like, this is so sick. We'll print them for free for you. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. Like, okay, great. I don't think people had really seen that kind of mashup blending style before, I guess. So I think I felt like I was kind of onto something that people wanted to see, not just myself. I wasn't doing it for, I guess, an audience. I was always just drawing for myself and things that I would kind of dig and have fun seeing. It just so happened that other people kind of dug it as well, which is great. But yeah, it's definitely like a fun blend on the nostalgic, and that's all it is, man. It's just such a love for all that 80s and 90s stuff, and people live in that kind of bubble. I think I still do, for sure. Like I'm 38 years old and I still see Ninja Turtles toys on eBay that I'm like, oh, I need to get that. Like, I still go crazy on that kind of stuff. And I guess that's the same with music as well. Like, I still listen to the same stuff I did when I was like 13 years old, or like an old Blink song or a Green Day song will come on, and that will just invoke such a memory, such like a core memory that you just, you love it, man. You just listen to that shit over and over again.
Yeah, totally. And I love how you mentioned that with your daughter, because my son is right at the age now where he's getting into like Sonic and Ninja Turtles and Pokemon, and it's so rad. And I'm like you, like we'll go to the toy store to get him stuff, and I'm like, man, I really want that fucking Charizard toy. He gets it home and he just wants to rip up the package, and the collector in me is like, dude, you got to keep that thing in the package. You got to keep it pristine. It's such a fun time.
She both pocket money then, I guess, right?
It's like, come on. Creative process wise, how does this stuff start for you? Like, do you have an hour booked each day where you're going to doodle whatever comes? Is it just something that pops in your head when you're watching YouTube? How do these ideas start for you?
It's changed significantly over the years as I've gotten busier. Like back when I first started out, it was sort of allocating time to draw and practice and sort of hone my sort of style. And I think when I first started out, it was more very spontaneous in terms of an idea would come to me and I'd write it down or I'd sketch it or I'd have to draw it that night and get it out onto to Instagram. Back then, I mean, I guess still now a little bit, you kind of get into that rut of like having to keep up with social media, if you know what I mean. Like I definitely felt as I was getting a bit more popular, I definitely felt that if I skipped a day, people would forget about me. Like I wade into the abyss and no one would know who I was anymore. And I definitely felt like it was a lot of pressure to kind of keep up with it and to try and post once a day or if not every other day. So back then I was definitely drawing way more. In terms of quality, it was probably a lot less because it would just be any idea I kind of thought of. Oh yeah, that's good enough. I'll stick it on Instagram. But some stuff definitely didn't work as well as I thought it did. But now it's definitely a lot more thought process behind it. My style's definitely gone from, I guess, like, the simpler idea to now more of a concept, if you know what I mean, where people could like buy it as an art piece rather than just like a singular drawing that might work well as a sticker. So my art style's definitely evolved. And with that, more planning has to go into it, more sort of thought process, more feeling as well. Like I listen to a lot more music just listening and sketching rather than having it on in the background, because I'll listen to like a whole album or a whole playlist now and I'll just sketch random shit that comes to me and random ideas, and then by the end of it I've kind of got a rough concept that works well, and the thought process behind that is more sort of like the feelings that I got while I was just listening to that album or or soundtrack or whatever. Whereas back then it was more just a fun idea or play on words or a mashup that would be quite fun and stuff like that. I mean, I still do the odd drawing that is I guess a throwaway drawing, if you know what I mean, just a fun idea, gets it out there and stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, it's definitely evolved now in terms of the whole thought process behind it.
Yeah. As far as tools of your craft, has that evolved as well? Is that something where it used to be pen and paper, now you can't live without your iPad? What are you creating on?
Oh yeah, definitely. So much so, the fact that I was at I don't know if I guess it's like an art festival kind of thing, and I was with a bunch of artists, and we got given like these black books. People were bringing them over, and it's basically people have these black books where they collect different artists and graph artists, sort of like tags and stuff and drawings. They go to different art fairs or conventions and they'll collect them and stuff. So we're at a table and the people were sort of bringing these books over and I was signing them. And the guy next to me literally went to zoom in on the paper, like, and he was like, fuck, I can't believe I just did that. I was like, man, that's like muscle memory. Like, so when I first started out, it was just sketching on pads in like a little, doodle book. And then I kind of sort of found digital art and I was like, wow, this takes a step away from what, I thought I would have to do. Traditionally I'd sketch it out, then I'd like, take a good photo or scan it in, try and digitize it somehow or just send it off to a company. I mean, I remember when I worked in the skate shop, I was literally just doing pen and ink and then scanning it and sending it off to like a board printing company, and they'd have to do whatever wizardry they could do to make it, digitize it and put it onto a board. Whereas this whole sort of concept of making it digital myself was like, wow, this takes a whole step out of it. So now, yeah, iPads. I mean, I barely sketch on paper anymore because the iPad's just so versatile. I can take it on trips with me. It literally goes everywhere I go because I never know if I've got like 20 minutes, half an hour, I can always just be sketching on there or writing down ideas and stuff. But yeah, usually it goes from iPad, then onto computer where I sort of like touch it up or I'll add, text or finish off the concept, and then it goes off to the printers. I do use a lot of paint as well onto canvas. That's more for, my sort of original paintings and stuff. Or if a commission comes in and they want like an original. For example, like Mark's bass. I know we're not going to touch on that just yet, but like that was obviously all paint and by hand. Digital didn't really come into it. But yeah, I tried to keep on top of all different kinds of mediums and stuff. I'm definitely not into sculpting. I've tried my best at that, and I can't do it. I'll save that for the professionals and stuff. But I do like I make a lot of like toys and stuff, but I'll have someone do that. Like a sculptor, create that out of like resin or 3D printing and stuff like that, and then I'll let them do their work, and I'll just come up with the concept and stuff. I think I definitely have a wheelhouse that I need to stick to.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the similarities as I'm listening to you talk about this stuff, the similarities between like yourself as an artist and like a band and the DIY aspect and, starting with stickers and just growing and growing. And there's a lot of similarities there. It's really interesting. And even with the digital component, like nowadays bands are recording digitally. There's a little bit more room for error. Whereas before, pen and paper, if you fuck up, you better hope you've got a good eraser. There's some similarities there. It's interesting.
Oh, for sure, man. I mean, also like the whole time it takes to do something. I mean, I would assume that recording digitally is a lot quicker in terms of like editing process and all that kind of thing. The same with art. Like when I was drawing on pen and paper, like you said, you do your sketch outline, and then it's that whole hesitant like first line with the black pen, like here we go, and like, am I sure this is correct? And then I remember like making mistakes and having to retrace over it with light boxes and stuff like that just to get it how I wanted. Whereas with digital art, there is no, if you make a mistake, you can just backspace, you can undo it all and it's fine, so. And then it works well for me because my particular color style, like I use a reduced palette, so I tend to kind of stick to 1 to 4 colors on my art pieces rather than say 10 or 12. Nothing wrong with that, it's just that's my particular art style. And with digital art, I can really explore those reduced palettes and I can really see what works well. As simple as like a click or just like highlighting a bunch of colors and changing it all at once. Whereas if I was painting, I'd have to do a lot of test prints before that and then kind of be sure that I want to use those colors. Obviously I could go over it, but the process is so long. Whereas now it's great because if I did a piece for someone, which when I work with brands and stuff, they might want something in a few different colorways. So it really lends itself to that. It's definitely, I remember when it first came out, there was a lot of artists who thought it was almost like cheating or, it's not traditional. And, I get it at the time, but now I think a lot of those artists, they've moved into digital and stuff. They've seen the light.
Yeah, they're finally like, this is pretty fucking nice. Yeah. That back button, it saves lives. You mentioned you were self-proclaimed skate rat. I'm curious, during that time period, what music were you listening to? Were you aware of Blink at the time? What were you jamming out to during those days?
Well, I was the skate rat. I wasn't very good at skating, definitely not. I always wanted to be, but I was just, it wasn't for lack of trying, put it that way. I was just never, I was never a good skater, but I was always like, loved it. I always, I think that's the whole beauty of skating. It's so inclusive as well. It doesn't matter how good you are, even if you're just trying that one trick, there's someone who's nailed that trick years ago or whatever, and they're there to give you pointers and stuff, and everyone hypes you up. It's sick. I love the skate community. I always have. But yeah, music wise, when I first started out, I think I just found Green Day, and then I remember, I'm trying to make sure I've got it in the right order, but I remember hearing a Blink song on the radio, and I was like, what is this? What is this band? Like, I'd never heard them before, because I think back then it was like, do you remember like Kazaa? I don't know.
Yeah.
Or like LimeWire and stuff. Yeah. So that's how I had to find music and stuff.
Totally.
I remember hearing a Blink song on the radio, and I'd never heard this band before. I'd never heard that song. I remember trying to recite it to my friends the next day. It's like, yeah, it kind of went like this, trying to sing it to them. I have a terrible voice, whatever. And then it became a bit more popular, and I think we saw it on like in the music video. I can't even remember what song it was now, but yeah, so definitely kind of that punk rock kind of thing. My cousin was into the Ramones, so I kind of listened to a few of their songs. I was a bit of a fan, but not like a massive Ramones fan at the time. and then it kind of like went from there. So like, you know, hearing Blink for the first time, hearing like Green Day, and you know, it kind of going on from there, and then finding all these other bands that are so similar as well, and that kind of, I guess, that kind of early 2000s era, you know, or late 90s era. That's like golden era for that kind of music. You know, listening to it on, we used to have a magazine over here called Kerrang,
Mhm.
and then that, I don't know if that's a worldwide magazine or not. And they had a music channel as well, so you could like see the bands that you were listening to, and you know, you could read about them in the magazines and stuff. But yeah, definitely all that sort of stuff had such a huge influence on me as well. I remember like going out and getting my first Blink 182 hoodie and stuff from the market. It's probably a knockoff, like a bootleg hoodie and stuff for sure. But like the sleeves were like this long, but then like the hood doesn't fit and stuff. But yeah, they were such huge influences on me. Like I remember getting the Mark, Tom and Travis Show album. I remember calling up my stepdad at the time. He worked in a shop, and I remember calling him about 4 or 5 times a day, being like, "Don't forget to go to the record store and pick this up for me." And in the end, he was like, "If you call one more time, I'm not getting it for you." Okay, okay. I remember him bringing it home, and like the album cover art alone was just such like mind blowing for me. It was so much there. I remember just like redrawing the whole thing, like, you know, spending hours just like trying to get it right, and you know, drawing the shower, you know, the shower scene at the top of that album cover, like on my friends' bags and pencil cases, and trying to get it right, and drawing Mark and drawing Tom and stuff. It was so cool. You know, so that was a huge influence on me for sure, man. Like I think I that sort of went off into, then I sort of like found hip hop as well, and I'm like a big hip hop fan, you know, so I don't just exclusively listen to, you know, punk or punk rock or anything like that. Like my music taste now is so eclectic, but it's so nice to jump into old sort of like, you know, early 2000s playlists and just listen to stuff that you had long forgotten about and stuff. You know, it's so nostalgic.
Oh yeah. I go through different phases too, and I'm all over the place. I always say on my podcast, like I'll go from Bob Marley to death metal to hip hop to jazz. I listen to all types of shit, but pop punk, that Blink 182 sound that's my home. That's my home base there.
Oh,
Um, Mark busted out, I think it was a month or two into this last tour. He comes out on stage and he is holding a beautiful bass, and it's referred to as thumbs. And I think a lot of my listeners probably quickly looked you up on Instagram and started following you. How did this come together? Is this something that you had asked them, they discovered you, it started with a DM? Like, how does this realistically hit your plate to start working on a bass guitar for Mark Hoppus?
I mean, I hopefully you might be one. I mean, one of the only people to say that Mark Hoppus slid into their DMs. But no, keep it in your pants, Mark. Yeah, so this is like a true kind of full circle thing for me. So obviously, I touched upon, you know, listen to their album and replicating the album cover, and this also like solidifies what I firmly believe in terms of art and any kind of creative passageway. If there's any creatives listening to you, whether you're a musician, artist, whatever, but always just create stuff for yourself, you know, and from that you'll organically find people who are like-minded and into the stuff that you're into, you know. Like when I first built up my Instagram following, that was just for me posting stuff that I liked, you know, nothing to do with other people. I never even thought anyone would see it. It just so happened that other people liked my style or were into it. So fast track to, you know, I'm doing a lot of like fun pieces and stuff that I'm into, and I think I just started listening to Blink again. Like I think I found a playlist, but oh my god, yeah, this song, and it was like, I don't know what it was, but kind of went back and listened to like their whole sort of anthology, and went back to albums that I'd kind of long forgotten about. And I wanted to redraw the Mark, Tom and Travis Show album cover, but as Simpsons. So with all different Simpsons characters on it. Mark was Bart, Tom was Milhouse, Travis was Nelson, and then the whole crowd as well were all different Springfield characters. And it was literally just going to be a fun piece for myself. It wasn't going to be, didn't even know if anyone would be into it. Obviously, I know there's huge Blink fans out there, but you know, are there Blink and Simpsons fans that would want to see this together? Probably not. I don't know, but when I started posting snippets of it, because obviously it was such a long piece to do, it's very intricate album cover. People would start guessing it. So it would be like, the corner of like Bart's head, but with maybe like a bit in the background, and people were guessing straight away, like, this is Blink-182, 100%. And I could see like people were really ramping up and really excited about it. I started getting DMs about it and stuff. So started putting more and more on there, and then eventually I did like the big reveal of the print, and I limited it to 182 limited edition art prints, and it started getting real big traction. And suddenly Mark Hoppus likes the post. Then Mark Hoppus leaves a comment. It's like, I want one of these. And I was like, fuck, like he's actually seen my art. That was just such a huge moment for me, because although, like I said, you create art for yourself, it's always awesome when someone that you have admired for so long, or such a big fan of their work, actually knows you exist. That's fucking awesome, So I was like, reverted back to being like a 13-year-old skate rat finding Blink for the first time. I was like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. Yeah, definitely. And then he slid into my DMs and was like, hey man, I'd love to get a print. I was like, you can have a print, man. Of course, I'm not going to fucking charge you for a print. Like, yes, send me your address. I would love to send one to you. So yeah, I sent him a print and a couple of T-shirts and stuff. And yeah, the conversation kind of carried on a little bit from time to time. I think I would post a few things on my stories. He'd leave a comment in my DMs, or like them, or he'd like my posts and stuff. And eventually he, oh yeah, that's right. He messaged and said, just asked about working together on something. Didn't really say what it was, just kind of asked about it. And he was like, yeah, let's FaceTime. I was like, sure, yeah, I'll FaceTime Mark Hoppus. Yeah, why not? But unfortunately, it was just at a time he got diagnosed with cancer. So he messaged me. He was like, hey man, bad news, told me about this cancer. We'll pick this up. And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, fucking hell, look after yourself. Like, we'll chat anytime. Like, I want you to be good. I want you to be healthy. Like, look after yourself. So a few months went past. Then I just woke up one day to a text from him. And he just said, hey, man, would you be interested in painting a bass for me for my world tour? And that is like, what a message to wake up to, man. It's like, I think my wife was just getting out of the shower. I was like, guess who's painting a guitar for Mark Hoppus for his world tour? Like, what are you serious? I was absolutely like creaming in my jeans, man. It was like, for lack of a better word, but yeah, it was such a cool offer from him. So we FaceTimed after that just to sort of get a clarification of kind of what he wanted. And he's such a lovely guy. He was so sort of kind on the phone as well. As I said, like, whatever you're into, I can put a piece together. And he was like, I'm such a fan of your work, whatever you want. I mean, that's not a humble brag. I'm just saying, just to hear someone that I'm such a big fan of have like kind of a mutual love for what I do, that is like such a nice moment for me. And yeah, it couldn't have been easier, man. Like, he basically his assistant, or I guess his roadie, sent me the bass from Fender, and yeah, I just got to work on it, man. And I just kind of went through quite a few different ideas, made a few mistakes pre-painting, and obviously I wanted it to look good, and I hadn't really thought about kind of what it was going to go with. And in the end, I kind of just went wild and started listening to more and more Blink, and kind of came up with some fun ideas that I thought he might like. So I looked at other basses that he had, so I wanted to do something a bit different. And that's kind of where it went from there, man. And I mean, unfortunately, I wasn't there at the time it came out for the first time. I know there's like a whole kind of culture around following his bass guitars, right? Which is new to me. But it was so cool, because I started getting so many people reaching out, asking me about it. People wanted like snippets of it before it even been released on the internet. Before even Mark had seen it, people wanted videos of it and stuff. Which was wild. I didn't realize there was such a culture behind it. But the community is so warm and welcoming, and I think people kind of like the design and stuff. So yeah, it was very cool to see it live when I went to. So he invited me to London at the O2 to watch it, and that was so cool seeing it come out, man. Like a little tear in my eye. I was like, oh my god.
That's what I mean. I was gonna ask, like, did you get a chance to see it live in person? I mean, how did that feel for you? Holy hell!
Oh, amazing, man. So he reached out and got me 4 tickets to the O2, and yeah, so me and my 3 friends went, and yeah, just seeing it come out, I didn't realize how bright it was on stage as well. Like that yellow was just fucking pretty luminous, man. And there's a song that they play it with. I can't remember what the song is now. I'm sure you guys, your fans would probably know, but apparently that's like the bass guitar that they play with that particular song now, because I think the lights come down and then it's quite fluorescent on stage and stuff. Yeah, I'd have to find the name, but I'll find it. I'll dig that out for you.
Yeah, I saw it. I'll have to look too, because he does swap his basses in and out. So now I'm curious, which song was that with that?
Oh, I think I'll just gotta find it. Sorry, it's on my phone. I know I shouldn't be on my phone while I'm on the podcast and stuff. But yeah, I think yeah, Brian, his roadie, he sent it to me. I can't find it now. I'll find it for you and I'll text it to you anyway. But yeah, it's just like a particular song that the lights come down and it's like, yeah, this is the basic play with this song now. Like that's fucking awesome, man. Like I couldn't. Yeah, it's such, like I said, such a full circle moment for me, just to get that call from him, and just to know someone that I'd admired for so long was into my artwork. It's just so mind blowing, you know. And that's kind of not why you make art, but it's definitely a bonus.
Oh yeah, for sure. When they send you that bass, you answered it earlier. Did you have complete free reign? And then my other question is, was that bass blank? Like, did you actually pick those colors of the body and pick art and such and pick that out?
Oh yeah, for sure. So they so Brian, shout out to Brian Diaz, by the way. I think he's Mark's like roadie. Like I think he handles the basses and stuff.
Yeah.
So he asked me if I wanted it painted already, or you know how I wanted it, and I was like, just give it to me raw. So it was just a completely unvarnished wooden Fender, and yeah, I had complete reign to do whatever I wanted, man. I you know, got some paint cans, Montana fluorescent flash, did a few coats of that. Had to do more than I thought, because yellow is a real difficult color to keep solid, if you know what I mean. Like it's quite a weak pale color anyway, so I did quite a few coats of that. And then once I had finished doing all the graphics on it, he asked like if I had any notes and stuff, and I was like, yeah, if the what was it called, the pickguard, right?
The pickguard, yep.
I'm so rubbish with music stuff.
I'm not too great, but I know that one.
I probably know, yeah. And they asked me what color I wanted that, so I was like, yeah, if you can do like metallic pink or fluorescent pink would be really good, just to make all the other colors pop. So yeah, man, like I had complete control over it, and I even tried to lacquer it with like a glitter lacquer, but it didn't take too well, and it started to kind of crack away the paint. So if you ever get to see any close-up shots of the paint, it looks almost like it's worn a bit, but it's not. It's just the lacquer is kind of dissolving the paintwork almost. It's really weird. I didn't know it would do that. Maybe it's the material underneath. I'm not too sure, but yeah, they put a proper professional coat over it in the end, so that was fine. But yeah, Mark seemed to be happy with it. Like he texted me once he'd seen it and he was super stoked, which was amazing. And yeah, just seeing people kind of, you know, loving the look of it was awesome. And also there's so many other artists he's worked with which are great. Joshua Vides, Burrito Breath as well. You know, they've done some really awesome basses. You know, just to be in company with those guys is sick. So yeah, I'm super stoked on it.
Yeah, dude, I just did an episode that was top 5 Mark Hoppus basses of all time, and I asked folks to send in their list. And yours was on so many lists, dude. So in such a short amount of time, man, it has risen to the top. Like people love that bass.
Oh, I'm glad, man. I'm glad.
Yeah, I'm curious on the specific little art pieces that are on it. Can you talk us through kind of what you put on there, how you created it? I see the smiley, I see the little devil. There's a couple cool little things there.
Yeah, for sure, man. So a lot of it was like personal preference, but I started off with so I know Mark's like a Garfield fan. So I did like a blend of Garfield and the Blink Rabbit. So that was like the first one I did. That's kind of right at the bottom of the bass. And that kind of that's where it sort of started. That kind of gave me room to realize, like, what can I work with here? Because it's a very awkward thing to actually paint in terms of space. It doesn't, once you get the pickguard on there, it doesn't really allow you too much to kind of like visually encompass onto it. So from that, and then I was like, well, I'm a Speed Racer fan anyway. And he's always had like this M on his helmet. I was like, well, I'll do that because that's M for Mark. I'll do like a double vision one because, it kind of it evokes a bit of speed and stuff. So I did like a double Speed Racer kind of thing. And that was coming out. And then when I posted it, Mark was like, I love Speed Racer. I was like, cool, I didn't even know. Which is great.
Boom.
Yeah. And then the Little Devil guy, I'm just such a big fan of the old Hot Stuff comics. It's I love the tattoo community as well, and they're always in like old tattoo flashes and stuff. And I thought I'd do something cool on there, and I gave him a little tattoo. It says "Damn it" on it, and there's a few little Easter eggs in there. And that was just kind of like I just wanted like a big thing to kind of like a filler, because if I go too small, I kept thinking, people looking at the bass from afar and maybe in the audience might not be able to see the details. So I wanted something kind of big, kind of electrified him as well. Obviously, his electric bass and stuff. Then there's another little Bart Simpson on there, because I know Mark's into the Simpsons a little bit. And on the flip side, which not a lot of people have seen, there's like a big sort of atom bomb falling down with the Blink circle on it. I did some flowers at the bottom as well. Just so I was kind of filling space. I didn't think anyone would even see the bottom of it or the reverse side. I just thought something for Mark maybe. So I kind of just like had some fillers that I just wanted to like go to town on. Like, those flowers are just freestyled. So that's why a few of them are a little messed up. But yeah, no, it kind of turned out well. Even like I did some like kind of like worn-in black strips on it just to kind of add a bit of concept to it. And a little bit of the masking tape didn't hold, so the black ink kind of failed out, kind of sort of frayed out a little bit. So it's a little bit rigid. And I know some dude did a replica of the bass, like hand painted one, and he included like the little flecks where the paint is like where I've not like masked it well. It's incredible. Like I said, the community behind it is insane. So yeah, it was really kind of just the whole piece on itself. Oh yeah, and also underneath it says, for Mark by Thumbs, just a little love letter from me to him. But like I said, the whole thing was kind of just a really fun piece that just came out of nothing. I was just listening to Blink albums, and I might hear a lyric or a song, and something might just pop into my head, and that's kind of what I put onto the bass. It was just stuff. It's almost like from Mark to me, back to Mark again, if you know what I mean. Like. It was just a full kind of very therapeutic process, like not in terms of actually painting it. Some of it was a bit stressful, but the whole coming up with the concept was very therapeutic. It was very natural, just really random fun stuff that I thought he might dig.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that gave me goosebumps. That's awesome. I love that for you. That's rad. What's the official color of that yellow? I got gearheads. You talk about this Blink community. A lot of them listen to this podcast, or I'm friends with them. What's that official color? People are going to ask.
So I'm pretty sure it's fluorescent flash from Montana spray cans. I will double check. I think I've got an old can over there somewhere, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it's fluorescent flash. That's the one. It was about 4 coats of that, and underneath that it's just a really basic yellow that they use on like roads.
Interesting.
I just needed like a real solid base on it, because it's all wood. It's quite porous, like it's a thirsty bastard, so it will just it will just soak up the paint. But so I needed just a real solid core underneath it. But yeah, fluorescent flash, that's the one, man. And then obviously you'd have to ask Fender what that color pink Pickard is.
Yeah. So he plays the bass, and then we get an announcement that "Hi, my name is Mark" pin is coming out. You sell your own pins. You seem, this seems right up your alley. How rad was that for you to have your painted bass? You see Mark Hoppus on stage with it, and it's an enamel pin. It's rad.
Oh man, so cool. Like, I didn't expect that at all, to be honest with you. Dylan, who works with Mark, I think he handles most of the hi, my name is Mark stuff, reached out and was like, yeah, we're making a pin. If that's cool, I was like, yeah, I was like 100%, man. Of course it is. And then they obviously offer the artist a certain amount of pins as a little thank you, which is super rad of them, man. So yeah, just to have, obviously that base is gone now, Mark's got it, but to have it like a little mini version with the details in it are insane. Like, I don't, how they get them on there is incredible. Signed by him as well is just really cool, man. It's just like a nice little memento, My only downside is that I was allocated X amount, and I've got a few friends that are big Blink fans that I needed to keep aside for them. But there's so many collectors that reached out. I was like, oh, I don't know, man. These guys are a bit more worthy than my friends,
Yeah, I gotcha. I love it. Well, dude, I appreciate you sharing all this stuff. This is so rad. I think I'm gonna get you out of here on some rapid fire if you're ready for it. Quick hitters here. Best Blink album all time.
I'm just gonna go with the first one that I picked up, and it wasn't the first one I picked up was Mark Thomas Travis Show, but obviously Enema of the State is the non-live version of that. So I'm just gonna go with Enema of the State. Might not be the best one, but it's just the one that means the most to me. So
okay. Favorite Blink song all time.
Oh man, can I do like three?
Do top three. Let's do top three.
All right, top three for me. Maybe Carousel. Man Overboard, and Adam Song.
Nice. It's a great list. You strike me as somebody who probably collects something or has a rad hobby, maybe outside of your career, or maybe that is your hobby. It probably is. But do you have something you collect, like a favorite collectible or something that you just love?
Yeah, I'm a sucker for old school, like 80s pre-packaged toys. So carded like 80s and 90s toys. Not that I can afford all of them because some of them are like crazy money, but there's some real niche ones that, or like B-side characters that no one really wants anymore. That kind of thing. I'm a big collector of. I don't have I wouldn't say I have a massive collector, but I'm a big fan of them, and like I'm very niche about it. So if there's a particular character that means a lot to me, I'll be like, yeah, I'll get that. And it might not be expensive because no one else really likes it, but yeah, that kind of thing. That floats my boat.
I gotcha. I want to see if you can give some advice. I loved the advice you already gave, really, and this may be it, where you said create for yourself, and then organically people will, listen to it or dig it or whatever. And I love that because to me, when I started this podcast, I essentially just started a Blink podcast that I wanted to listen to, and then you pray to God maybe two people will. Do you have any advice for creatives? For the listeners who maybe are on the verge of trying to make something a career or make that jump?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, it's a little bit of luck, but it's mainly down to a bit of self-belief, man. You have to sometimes just take that gamble on yourself and, just make that jump into what might scare you, but could work out. You just have to have a bit of self-belief and make that leap. It's daunting, it's scary, but at the end of the day, you really have to weigh up, like, what's the worst that could happen? You might invest a little bit of money into something that might not work out, but you never benefit unless you try. So yeah, have a bit of self-belief, man.
I dig it. Thumbs, let us know where to find you at. I know you've got a shop, you've got shirts, pins, stickers, like so much rad stuff. Let us know where we can find you, as well as your Instagram handle and such.
Yeah, sure, man. So I have a website. It's thumbsdesign.com or thumbsdesign.co.uk. You can find me on Instagram, thumbs1. I am trying to get better at TikTok, but for now it's a little bit dead. But you can find me on there as well, Art by Thumbs. But yeah, man, Instagram is mainly where I hang out. If anyone's got any questions or you're an artist and you're struggling or need a bit of advice, I'm always available to try and communicate with people. So just drop me a DM, man. It might take me a couple of days to get in touch, but I try and read and respond to everything if I can. So
that's awesome. Yeah, this was such a pleasure on my part, man. Thanks for coming on the pod. Anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Yeah, just keep listening to Blink.
Hopefully you'll get another bass in a few years to do for Mark, and then I'll have you back on and we'll chat about that one.
Yeah, you never know, man. That's yeah. I want to do drums and a guitar for Tom as well. That'd be cool. Imagine just gonna tick off the whole band. So
there we go. Thumbs 182. All right, dude. Really enjoyed this. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.